Welcome to DRB Tunnel Solutions training. In this training, we're going to take a look at the queuing enhancements of Patheon. Let's get started. In the latest version of Patheon, we now have the option to auto-queue or not auto-queue sales. Let's explain a little bit about what that means. In a former version of Patheon, every single terminal that would cash out a sale would automatically send that sale to the tunnel queue. This was whether or not you had a gate configured. And before the latest version of Patheon, you could not actually sell washes directly on a tablet terminal. You had to sell prepaid washes and redeem them at another terminal. The latest version of Patheon has added several queue-related enhancements, including 3-digit car numbering that'll help you process sales that originate at terminals without gates. Let's take a look at the new configuration. Your XBT, for example, is set up to automatically queue a vehicle to your tunnel interface. You'll notice that there's no question here about turning auto queuing on or off. The default behavior is still when the sale is paid, the car gets into queue, and the gate opens. Your lane terminals work the same way. For example, we have a wash cashier here that has the ability to work in semi-attended mode, and it has full lane hardware, including gates, customer identification hardware, etc. Here you'll notice that we don't have an option to auto queue. For lane type terminals, we auto queue automatically when the sale is paid, just like the XBT. A gate is required, and the gate is open and the car put in queue as soon as the sale is paid for. However, there are two types of terminals that we want to ask you whether or not you want to put that sale into queue automatically. And that would be, first, an office POS. You may have a cashier station, for example, maybe inside, so we'll call this front desk for our front desk computer. And you'll notice now that when we don't have all the lane hardware, including gates and customer identification hardware, we have a new question called vehicle auto queuing. With vehicle auto queuing disabled, whenever you pay for a sale that includes a wash, the sale will not go directly into the queue. It'll go into a new section called unqueued washes. And this section is used to manage any cars that are either not going directly into the wash queue or that have been removed from the wash queue. It's pretty cool, and we'll take a look in just a moment. The next type of hardware is your tablet terminal. Tablet terminals, by default, also have vehicle auto queuing disabled because they don't have lane hardware. So they automatically send all washes that are paid for to an unqueued sales section. Let's take a look at how that works. First, let's take a look at what happens when a car pulls up to a lane that has lane hardware. So there's loops in the ground that pick up the car, snap a picture, and then we may have an attendant that puts a wash into the sale. We have car number that shows up at the top of the sale, 921, and when you cash out that sale with either cash or credit card, the sale is auto-entered into the queue. Again, this is one of those lanes that has automatic loops in the ground, it has gates, and it's set up to automatically queue. If we take a look over at the tunnel screen, you'll notice several cool enhancements. First, the car number is in the upper right-hand corner now, and superimposed on the car tile, we have the name of the wash. We can see the car, the picture that we just took, and the name of the wash, and we can tell that this is a retail customer because we don't have any customer information at the top of the page. For planned customers, you'll notice that the link to the customer is still there. We still have the option to update the car on plan picture if we don't have one by clicking this button. And you'll see that the wash that they get for their plan is there. You'll also notice that we superimpose the plan badge on the right-hand side. Just like always, you'll notice that as you click on each vehicle position, you'll notice that the yellow bounding box and the vehicle information shown here matches the car number and the yellow bounding box on the tile down at the bottom. We still have the ability to have different retracts in different queue positions. And as always, if configured, you can set the system to save your retracts for license plate and plan customers. You'll also notice that the license plate of the vehicle can show at the bottom if a license plate is present. We can still send from any position. For example, I'm in the second position, so I can click Send Car. It'll move car 497 to the first position, and then send it over to my tunnel controller to be washed. Once it hits the electronic eye, it'll be advanced out, and the line will continue to move. and we're now ready to send our next car. So the auto queuing happens that way from terminals where you either redeem a plan, redeem a prepaid, or pay for a wash that's in a sale. These would include your XPT lanes, your SAL lanes, and any attended terminals where you have lane hardware, such as gates and license plate readers or RFID readers. Now let's take a look at what happens when you pay for a vehicle on a terminal such as a tablet that does not auto queue. Here we're going to log into our tablet terminal. And you'll notice we now have the wash and rewash tabs available to us that weren't available before. If we select a wash, such as the Better Wash, and then we tender that sale out by tapping the credit card and dipping the payment, once that sale is tendered, let's take a look at what happens on the wash queue page. You'll notice now that we have a transaction pool, a list of unqueued cars that pops up on the far left-hand side of the screen. When you click this button for the very first time, you'll be brought up with the car number. Keep in mind that when we sold the vehicle, a car number was associated with that transaction that may have printed on the receipt. That can also be written on the vehicle in SOAP. So even if the vehicle comes up to the tunnel entrance and it isn't in line to be queued, we may have the number on the vehicle either in SOAP or on a receipt on the dash, for example. There's another view, however. If you click the lower right-hand corner, you'll notice that we have the name of the wash that they get and the car number showing here. To add something from the unqueued cars list, there's two options. First, you can type the number, and it automatically pulls up any vehicle ID or wash name that's associated with that sale. And here you'll notice as soon as I typed it, we have multiple options. We can send the car, which will move it to the first position and send it to the controller immediately. We can also press one of the plus buttons, which will add it to a specific queue position. Let's go ahead and add a few more vehicles. I'm just going to queue up a couple rewashes. And what this will do is it'll automatically have 3 different wash types in 3 different positions with 3 different numbers. Since these washes are queued from the wash cashier screen, they go automatically to the queue, and they have different vehicle pictures associated with those queue positions. If we do the same thing and add 3 different rewashes from a tablet terminal, here the vehicles do not auto queue, but they're still given a car number, and they will occupy a tile in the unqueued washes section. Now we have 4 different vehicle numbers, and we have a couple different ways to enter them. Again, the first way, type in the number and hit send car to move it to the first position and send, or press the plus to whichever position you want to add it. The plus here would add it to the 3rd position, 2nd position, or 1st. The plus at the end will add it to the end of the line. The other way to queue the vehicle is just to select the tile, and we have the same options, send car, or the pluses to put it in the specific section. I'm going to go ahead and add it to position 4, car 735. You also notice that any vehicles, such as vehicles that come from the tablet that don't have pictures associated with them, will have a large number that occupies their queue space. So at any time, you can see which wash is in which queue position. You can click on the queue positions to see if any of them have different retracts. And you can tell which ones came from the tablet and which ones came from your automatic gated terminals. Another very cool feature of the new unqueued cars section is that now these cars can be managed in active sales. You'll notice that what you can do with the vehicle is dependent on what state the vehicle's in. For example, all of our 3-digit car numbers that are not in the queue, we have the option to queue the vehicle or remove the sale. If the vehicle's in the queue, you'll notice that I can't do anything with it. You'll just have to press send, and it would be advanced out of the queue that way, or it can be removed from the queue, in which case it'll go to the unqueued wash section. You'll notice here we also now have updated the active sales screen to show the time created, the sale ID, the car numbers, the car pictures, as well as the license plate or RFID tags associated with those vehicles. You can sort by paid or unpaid, and you can sort by created time, ascending or descending. We also have the option that if we were to, for example, clear the entire wash queue, we no longer lose all of those sales. If we go back to the wash queue, for example, even though they're not in line anymore, they've now been added to the unqueued cars section, and you can review them here. So you can re-add these vehicles in any position you like. Keep in mind that now you have to reconcile your cars at the end of the day if you have any cars that are left over. For example, there may be a situation where you lose contact with your tunnel controller. If that happens, what may happen is that you may have a car that's still in queue, the tunnel is still running, but there are no cars physically there. In that instance, you would need to first remove the wash from queue. Why? Because sale 234, in its current state, I'm unable to do anything with it. It's queued. So if the car's not physically there, we have a couple options. One, we can remove it from the queue, which now gives us the option to reconcile that sale. We go back to the active sales list. We now can re-add these vehicles to queue that are here, including the vehicle that we just pulled out of queue and a vehicle that was unqueued already. If these cars are not physically there, we'll need to remove them from the list. When you remove a sale from the active sales list, when it's not in a wash queue, you have two options. You can either mark the sale as incomplete. This would be a customer that paid for a service, but then maybe pulled out of line and never was washed. The other option is that if you lose contact with your tunnel controller, you can remove the sale, but still mark it as completed and washed. And this will look the same as if the car advanced through your system and was paid for. At the end of the day, you should reconcile any sales as either incomplete or complete so that you can start off the next day with a clean slate of vehicles. There's another way that you can get a vehicle into the active sales list, and that is by selling a wash and releasing a sale. However, at this time, if you sell a wash and release a sale, the only thing that will happen is that the wash will not go to queue, but it'll live in the active sale list. Here, we can't queue the wash because it hasn't been paid for. We can only reopen the sale and complete something like a tender. If you complete that tender from a terminal that does auto queue, that vehicle will then be automatically placed back into the queue in line. If you complete the payment, for example, on a tablet, which does not auto queue, it'll add it to the unqueued washes section, and you can manage it by either typing the car number and pressing send car, or picking a tile from the list and adding it to your queue. And those are the new queuing enhancements to Patheon. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please send them to training@drb.com.